everybody, it's Drybear. And I've been messing around with Grounded 2, and as someone who loved Grounded 1, I wanted to give you an answer to the question of, is Grounded 2 worth it? I mean, typically, especially with recent games, especially Obsidian, they like to kind of get their proof of concept, get it mostly feature complete, and then get it tested and start changing. And Grounded 1 ended up having a lot of really nice changes over the course of early access before it finally launched. So the question to ask today is, now that Grounded 2 has entered into the early access stage, is it good? Is it worth it? Should you play it, or should you wait until it releases into a 1.0 version before you finally dive in? So this is the overview of that answer right now, is that Grounded 2 is in an early access state. One, it is not complete. The map that they show in early access is actually only a portion of the full map they have on the world map, which means that you are going to be seeing things outside of your range. There's an invisible wall around the early access map that you can't exceed or get outside of, and there's a lot more content on the way as well. New enemy types, new monsters to fight, new tiers, and the tier system goes up much higher than it did in Grounded 1, which means, you know, once it's all done and complete, we should be able to have some really awesome, crazy things to do. It also has a whole bunch of new monsters to face, monsters we haven't seen before, visual changes to things, you know, different workouts for some of the characters and how they play, and even just more ways to express your build or playstyle or whatever it is you're looking for in general. It also has like a mount added, companions added, new storyline added. It's got its own storyline and quest. All of that coming together means that Grounded 2 is set up to be a nice sequel to the first one. However, that being said, it isn't really like, if you haven't played Grounded 1, or you don't play a lot of survival games, the differences between 1 and 2 are not going to be all that pronounced. In fact, Grounded 2, in a lot of ways, is a proper sequel to the first one, in that all it does is it takes what people loved about the first game, builds on it, and extends that further out, right? So it's not like if you liked Grounded 1, you're going to go into Grounded 2 with this completely revamped, from the ground up, different experience. It is very similar to the first one. It'll feel like the first one. It just has some new systems, new content, new map, new story. So if you like the first one, you will definitely like the second one. And this is about what you're looking at. So if you look at this, obviously if you're watching this video, hopefully you're not looking for it, but this is the area that you have explored, that you have for the early access right now. So it's these sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 4, 9 different sections that you can select from in the early access. However, all this gray area in this square is what they're intending for the full game, so much bigger. And honestly, this is pretty close to the size of the map in Grounded 1. Like, maybe if you cut it off here and brought it down and added a little bit to it, it would be around the size of Grounded 1, at least in my mind. But there's a lot more that they want to add. And there's also even some monsters and some hints and leaks that we've seen that I won't mention in this video that seem like they really are trying to make this, you know, twice the size, 3 times the size of Grounded 1, which again means if you liked the first one and you really want to play more of it, Grounded 2 is just a nice, solid extension of the first game. But the next question is, how much time will you get out of Grounded 2? Is it far enough along, at least in its early access state, that you'll be able to get a good amount of time out of it? And a lot of that depends on, again, how much you like survival games, and also really how much of the exploration and secondary quests that you decide to do. If you want to beeline through it, I would say the early access is relatively short right now, but you don't really have to, and I think most people aren't going to when you're talking about early access. I think a lot of people are going to play around with the different difficulties, especially if you're playing on WoW. It's going to take you a lot longer to clear the areas, and you're kind of just familiar yourself with the combat system. I spent a lot of time practicing my parry timings and messing around with my melee and fighting different monsters, learning their patterns like a true three-dimensional action game, so I can hit those parries and get everything lined up and just kind of explore what's available. But the amount of things that are available in the game, it just kind of has that area. You have a set number of monsters, you have a couple bosses that you can do that aren't story related, and then you do have a campaign that you can push through and complete, but it is not the full story of Grounded 2. So most of what you're going to get from this, as I'm sure most reasonable people would expect with a game like this, is if you're going into a relatively large world survival game that is in early access, most of what you're going to be testing is the ground systems, the base gameplay, and like the item collection and exploration aspects. You're not looking at a full end-to-end product that is like built and hyper polished for a full 1.0 release. So if that matters to you, that would be something that would be either a knock or plus towards you wanting to get the early access version of the game. And again, since I played Grounded 1 and liked Grounded 1, I've been having a good time in Grounded 2 as well. Now, it's not something I'm looking to 100% right now. I'm kind of taking this as like an early access thing, exploring what's there, seeing the new monsters, testing stuff out, but I'm not looking to do like a full super hard difficulty, potentially even like a permadeath playthrough of just really jumping through the game and enjoying the whole ride as we explore and learn about what's available. And I'm not really going for any of the main story quest beats either, just kind of exploring the environment. Now let's talk about what's different about Grounded 2. This is going to be for people that played Grounded 1 or are curious, like, hey, I played the first game. What's new? What's different? Why should I care? Why should I bother shelling out for, you know, 30 bucks USD that I need to get Grounded 2 to get jumped into the process, especially if someone that played Grounded 1. The first major change is going to be the companion system. So you actually have a companion system that is actually pretty in-depth, which is pretty cool. So you'll be able to grab ant eggs and tame ants, and then you can even create what's called the buggy, which is your mount slash companion. He can serve as cannon fodder for you, can serve as extra damage, can serve as a tank for you, but you can also mount the ant that you tame, and you can use it as a mount. It has its own storage, like saddlebags on it as well. It can even hold on to like hauling items, things that you have to hold in your hands instead of placing in your bag. So it kind of just makes the world a lot easier to traverse. And I think this also was a necessary change. Generally, when you make maps bigger, if you make the maps bigger without easy ways to traverse, it ends up becoming cumbersome because you have to move from one side of the world to the other, and it takes a long time. So by adding this with the buggy as your companion, it makes it a little bit easier to be able to navigate the bigger map, and also gives you options to be able to move quickly from side to side without having to, like you would in the first one, build a whole bunch of zip lines or try to create ways for you to be able to move from one area to the other without having to constantly navigate the space that you're in. On top of that, you can also get an ant hive for yourself, which I won't go into detail on, and you can also even recruit workers as part of your army, so you have like a little army of ants. So that kind of functionality is really nice, especially for really just for any group, like just even the group of like people that are playing in a party. Having the extra companions can be nice, but also if you're playing solo, it gives you that extra little bill. A lot of ARPGs and like just general like Souls-like RPGs can sometimes do summons for difficult bosses or have companions or like, mercenaries that help fill the gap, right? If you're playing a ranged only glass cannon character, maybe you want to have a tank or a second companion that can help, or maybe vice versa. Maybe you want to be the tank and you pull aggro and you want a little bit extra damage coming from your minions and from your companions to be able to do that. So having that element there is very useful for survival games like this, especially for solo players that want to play. And I'm guessing that's one of the primary reasons why they decided to add the buggy into the game. The next major change from Grounded 1 is the Omni-Tool. And at first it felt kind of strange to kind of rely on this tool and have this as a central item, but it actually ends up being a very positive thing because the Omni-Tool is your tool for harvesting different aspects, right? In the first game, you had to, create certain hammers or create certain axes or create certain shovels. This is a universal, like centrally localized system that allows you to do all of that harvesting and upgrading. But the best part is it is a single tool that is always on your person. It doesn't take inventory slot. It's permanently equipped to your body. It also doesn't have any durability, which means that you can use it as much as you want. You never have to repair it. You have to farm anything to make it better. And so it is basically this. It is an Omni-Tool. It allows you to kind of carry it with you and then find things to harvest. And all you're doing as you're going through, as if it were like an account level upgrade, is you find the materials, find the raw science, upgrade the Omni-Tool and make it stronger and better, and then you just always have it with you, which frees up a lot of inventory and headache that we had in the previous system, which I would say is just generally an improvement on the system before. Obviously, it means that you're crafting less of the construction tools that you would normally make because you don't have to make them anymore, but you just do still need the materials and the raw science to upgrade them, which means you are kind of keeping that as part of it. And honestly, I think in this case, it's just a nice quality of life that you don't have to worry about the durability of your axe when you're chopping grass or the durability of your shovel when you're digging up grubs. You can just have it with you and not have to worry about it at all. Next major addition to the game is new enemies. There's actually a bunch of new enemies that are in the early access right now, a lot more than you'd expect. There's, you know, cockroaches and scorpions and butterflies and caterpillars and all of that. And there are leaks that are several more coming along the line as well, even some dev shots that show off new creatures. So if there's other things that you'd want to face, I think they did a good job of keeping the monsters that we know and recognize from the first game. Lots of spiders. They even did like a facelift to the wolf spider and various things like that. So you will end up facing some familiar enemies, and depending on what combat style you go with and how you face them or take them down, whether you're solo or in a group, all of that plays really nicely together. But I think having the new enemy types not only gives us more crafting options and makes the environment a lot more interesting, but also just gives us new ways to explore our builds and spread those builds around, which is cool. On top of that, not only do we have the new monsters, but we also have the habitats that they come with. You see a little bit here. I'm kind of trying to be careful not to show too much of like the later game stages of the game. You can see a caterpillar over there to my left. So you have that as an option there, but you also have like ice cream areas that give chill fields. There's fire areas. There's a couple new environmental effects as well that are pretty cool as we're trying to kind of like explore the area. So if you liked Grounded 1 and you're looking for new monsters and new areas and new biomes, you will get it even just in the early access with the map size that we have right now. They also made a really cool change to Grounded 2 that I think was needed from Grounded 1, is that they added more of a traditional like fantasy style class system. And they also added in new perks and bonuses and even like armor set bonuses that we can add to our build to make it even more expressive. So they have like rogue, assassin, they have, you know, like ranger, mage, fighter. They have some of those there. Now you're not going to choose a class when you start like it's some kind of like, you know, pure class-based game, but there are bonuses on the armor and new perks that you'll get through the mutation system that add a really nice flavor to the overall expression. And you can actually make more viable builds, even just in the early access for Grounded 2 than you could in Grounded 1, being able to, you know, actually pull threat or aggro if you want to tank, which is really cool, actually be able to use magic weapons and a magic build with perks and talents that go along with the magic playstyle a lot more easily than you could in the first one. You still have like hammers and axes and spears and daggers. You have more perks that play along with that as well. And then, you know, obviously new monster parts that create new weapon types. And they added, you know, 2 more tiers as well. Granted, 1 we were focused mostly on tier 1, 2, and 3, but now we have tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5 at least listed in the early access. Whether you'll be able to reach it or not, I'll leave that one open to your own interpretation. But in general, it does give us a lot more expression for playing the game in different ways, which is really cool. You can see some of this here. Again, I'm trying not to show too much of the game for people that care about spoilers and want to leave it alone. So I'm just clicking on ones that are empty. You can see that when you use certain weapon types, they give you, Blade Master, Whittle Wizard, Sharpshooter, Assassin, Smasher, fist weapons. There's new fist weapons out of the game, spears as well. You have different play styles like ambushing characters or taking hits and things like that you can combine all together. Then you have these cool new set bonuses. These are called, they're not, technically not set bonuses. They're just armor perks that you can stack up from different pieces of armor. But you have stuff that like it changes your 3-hit combo. You do more if an enemy is like isn't seeing you yet. You can do things where you build up extra like actual threat if you wanted a tank. Depending on the armor choice that you choose, you can stack up this bonus, and it is stackable, which means if you get it on like headpiece, chest piece, leg piece, you get multiples of this, getting more and more value. There's things where like you can do after a dash, you can do it when you're using dual wield, if you have nothing in your offhand, if you're using a ranged attack, and that ranged attack hits a weak point. So they did level up your build expression, like the variety of builds you can make by going into 2, which is huge. And I think it's going to get better and better as time goes on through early access, as we get more items and potentially more perks as well on those items that we can combine together. Well, now let's talk about the bad, because it is absolutely early access. There are, like right here, you can see there's a seam between the ground and the world. I have fallen through the floor at least twice so far. You will find gaps in the ground all the time. There's tons of bugs in this and a lot of polishing that's needed as well. So if you have an aversion to that kind of thing, maybe you want to wait a little bit on Grounded 2 early access before you jump in. I've had backpack items fall through the floor and disappear into the ether, and you will find a good 10 to 15% of the monsters you face getting stuck in the floor or stuck in the wall or stuck in some environment prop where they can't get out. Like they aggro you, you know they're under the floor, but they can't attack you until you get too close to the floor, and then you randomly take damage. So you have tons of stuff like that that's going to be littering your experience. So again, if you're looking for a complete polished end-to-end, this is a true early access in the normal sense, in that it is mostly feature complete. It's not content complete, Like they still have areas to explore and biomes to add and bosses to complete. And the story itself is not done, but for the most part, the features are there and they're just trying to get feedback and polish out the bugs and experiences like that. So that's definitely a major word of caution for you for something that's, you know, a little bit more not very sensitive to, you know, incomplete games. Then you may want to think about potentially skipping on this until they add a couple more patches. Also, infuriatingly, they decided to evolve some things that personally I didn't think needed to be evolved on in the first game. So one of them is they reworked some of the menu systems, and some of the implementations are kind of grating on me. So like some of this inventory here is a little bit unruly to manage. And one thing that I don't like right now, at least in this current standing, is if you look on the bottom middle of my screen, those are my hotkeys, right? In survival games, there's always like a larger inventory and then a smaller hot bar where you put things that you frequently use a lot. So one thing that kind of drives me crazy about, I don't know why they decided to change this, but if you open your inventory, you'll notice that the hot bar isn't here. It actually is a contextual menu that pops up when you're using your inventory and then disappears when you're not using it. So they decided to just completely relegate the hotbar to a different one. Now you can press a button to set these up here, but it's pretty annoying to be able to bring that up. And sometimes you can also do this where you can like pick an item that can be put on the hotbar. So you can see that when I'm holding an item that can be placed on the hotbar in my, like on my cursor, all of a sudden the hotbar is down here, right? All my hotkeys are down here. But then when I let go, it disappears. So I either have to bring this menu up, which I can't drag items to this. I have to click on this and then click the menu and then add a button to it, which also means it's kind of hard to do. Or I have to click and drag to force the hot pouch up and then it disappears as soon as I let go. So like little things like that, I think just still need a lot more, you know, thinking through and some polish. Additionally, there's tons of collision issues. I mean, there's not like too many that are too bad. It's just the ones like falling through the floor and enemies getting stuck that are really, really egregious right now. But in general, there's also just some inconsistency with the collision on not only stuff that exists in the game world normally, but the stuff that you make. So underneath me is a pebble foundation. This is like a tier 2 ground foundation that you can add to your base to be able to create different foundations. You do clay and you can find other things like that, but I have stone down here. However, the problem is these, at least for me, if I'm playing a survival game, and I've played many survival games, I would think that a foundation building block would be one that is stable, flat, and easy to build upon, right? That's the whole point of having a foundation element, is you lay down the foundation so you can build on it. However, you'll notice that when I walk over this, there is bouncy collision all over the place. There's actually a hole. There's a hole in the middle of this that I fall into and I can't get out of. So like even when, and for example, right, like if I were to build, let's say we build here real quick. Let's just grab one of these and build. Look at the motion. This is on top of a foundation. Like while I'm building on a flat foundation that I collected the materials for and built, in between the lines, like all the seams, there's these drops. And look at it, like I can't even build on my own foundation. Like it's just so, like, it's so wonky the way that it is, and then the way you click. And also there's no contextual building. Like I can't click and hold to place this. I can only place the outline blueprint. Then I have to cancel and then walk up and go build it. Whereas usually in building games, like survival games, you would have something and you'd be able to click and hold or press a button or do something like that in order to actually build it. Like, hey, I'm in the building menu, but I want to build the thing that I'm trying to build, so just let me build it in place instead of having to cancel out and go back to it. So a lot of times you end up with these things here that you can't finish. You have to go recycle them to get them to go away. So some of these things are just kind of grady and kind of awkward. So what's the final verdict? I would say Grounded 2 is a great start to early access and what I would expect out of most early access titles. It's pretty much, you know, all the features are there. It's just missing content, and there's definitely some issues and bugs that need to be sorted. But for the most part, you get to jump in and try it out. And I think this is in a really good spot for that. So if you are in the category of you like survival games or you don't have anything to play right now and the game looks interesting to you, you probably want to jump in and play around. You'll get to explore all the areas. There's a bunch of optional stuff that you can do in the early access. You can probably get a good 30 to 50 hours out of the early access right now. more if you're gonna do multiple playthroughs or try different build styles or things like that, or you do like one playthrough on normal and one playthrough on the WoW difficulty, just to see how far you can go and how good it is. But if you're not in that camp, I would consider waiting on it for now. It definitely has a lot more improvements that need to be made. There's a lot of content that's missing as well, and so you kind of have to weigh it against your interest in the game in general. But if you like the game, it's definitely one that's worth keeping up with as the updates roll out for Grounded. It was fun watching Grounded go from early access to 1.0 to some major content releases after their 1.0 release, which is really cool. And Grounded 2 has been a fun, fun time exploring the new areas, introducing the new characters, trying the new weapons and play styles, and also finding the new bugs and exploring all that stuff. That's what I've got for you today. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Let me know what your thoughts are on Grounded 2 if you've been playing it and what you think of the game overall, and also include whether you played Grounded 1 or not, or if you play survival games or not, and just what your perspective is. But it is definitely one of those kind of like classic survival games that I think if you're into survival games, it should be on your radar. It's definitely a very great game, both the first one and the second one so far, but let me know what you think. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.